Chapter 5 The Stalker. Kai secured the dagger under his cloak as he left the fragile safety of Gloam's End behind, stepping onto the ancient road that led toward Evergloom. He knew it would take a full churn to reach the outskirts of town, so he set off on a brisk pace. The cobblestones, or what was left of them, stretched into the dark. Moss fluoresced along the edges of the road, casting a pale green light that seemed to outline his path far ahead. The road was familiar, etched deep into his memory from cycles of routine. As a boy, he had walked it with Mother, carting supplies to and from Darkest Vale. Later, as a teen, he'd traveled it with Korik, scrawling runes in the dirt along the way with Father's old notes tucked under his arm. Kai's mind drifted as he walked. His focus was split between reminiscence and the relic that was sheathed at his side. The Kris'thal, now seemingly awakened, felt heavier than mere crystal should, like it was pulling him toward wherever it wanted to go. His hand brushed against the hilt of the blade, marveling at its craftsmanship and mystery. If he could uncover its purpose and master it, maybe the other runners would stop looking at him like Korik's pet project. Korik's pet project. Kai knew that's what they thought of him. They thought Kai was only a Rune Runner because he was Eric's strange son, not because he earned the title. They saw Korik's training, not Kai's skill over the runes. Men could fight, but magic was a woman's domain, and always had been. Korik and his father had once been the only men to channel Prismir through runecraft, and that wasn't proof of ability to them. Instead, it was seen as unsettling. And Kai, inheriting whatever strange thread that ran through Eric's blood, was just another person that didn't fit into their worldview. But where Korik and Eric had proven their place over time, Kai was still unproven. To be a fully acknowledged runner, he needed a claim, a relic obtained, or a feat of magic performed that couldn't be diminished or denied. He hadn't made his yet. He didn't share any of this with Korik, of course. He hadn't mentioned it when he argued about ending the Nightshawl, about needing answers, or about the Kris'thal choosing him. All of that was true, genuinely true. But underneath it, this sat too. The need to prove himself, to show the other runners he wasn't just being carried along. A small knot of guilt twisted in his chest. Selfish, maybe, but better to admit it than pretend it wasn't there. The Kris'thal hadn't chosen Korik, hadn't chosen Raven, Arlen, or any of the other seasoned runners. It had chosen him. If he could figure out its purpose, prove what it could do, they'd have to see him differently, not as the child being protected, but as a runner who had a claim of his own. Korik had trusted him to find answers, and he would. But the thrill that had carried him from Gloam's End was fading. Unease crept in to replace it, subtle at first, but growing with every step. The path forward was murky. For all his determination, he didn't actually know what he was searching for beyond the ruins. A question settled at the back of his mind. What exactly am I supposed to do with this thing? His steps faltered. What if the Kris'thal was a lure? A trap? What if the witches had planted it deliberately and left it for Korik to find his bait to destroy the Rune Runners once and for all? The thought sat bitter against his resolve. His skin began to crawl. He shivered. When did the wind change? It had been calm earlier, but now it snaked through the trees in uneven currents. Kai pulled his cloak tighter as his stride slowed. The path ahead stretched onward much longer than Kai remembered. His mind felt sluggish. He shook his head. Focus, one step at a time. Was something watching him? He glanced north toward the woods, then south toward the rocky cliffs. Nothing. Just shadows. And before Kai could take one more step, the wind stopped. No, not just the wind. Everything. It was soundless. A pressure leaned into his ears with a piercing whine. He turned slowly, scanning the darkness behind him. The shadows stretched unusually, curling at the edges of his vision. For a moment, he thought he saw something flicker. Whatever it was, he missed it, but he caught a branch shifting where it shouldn't. His hand found the Kris'thal's hilt. Could he even use it to defend himself? Korik's stories said it was a weapon, but he'd never swung it. Would it work like his steel dagger? The tension in the air was undeniable, thick and oppressive. His intuition screamed at him to keep moving, to run, to leave the road behind. Time fragmented, unspooling into the dark. Had it been seconds since he stopped? Minutes? Go! Move! Kai tightened his cloak and started walking again, faster now. His steps landed hard, driven by a paranoia he couldn't shake. His heartbeat thundered in his ears. Each beat was far too loud, drowning out. Wait. The suggestion of another rhythm, trailing just behind him. Footsteps fell in time with his own. He wrenched his head over his shoulder. Nothing there. But the prickle at his neck wouldn't fade. He jerked his head over the other shoulder. Whatever was nearby turned with him, always at his back, following him. The certainty crawled up his spine, setting every nerve on edge. Was it a mimic? A hide-behind? Whatever it was stalking him. The burning of prying eyes against his back was almost too great to bear. He could almost feel its breath. "Zemzar!" he shouted. Kai spun, his charged fist shooting around in a haymaker. Crackling force ripped through the darkness, scattering leaves and dust in its wake. He took 2 ragged breaths before returning to a neutral stance. For a moment, the world was still save for the echo of his attack fading into the trees. Nothing reacted. Not a single shape or sound answered him. Then it hit him. This unease may not have even been his. Something was in his head, like an invasive force worming its way into his mind. Kai whispered, "Lyra isvus ka prisilica naithem." He traced prosilium dust across his forehead, invoking the enchantment to expose any hidden magic. His fingers settled on the final stroke as the rune shimmered, and then the path ahead. The trees. The ground beneath him. All of it was threaded through with glowing red strands. They entwined, forming a lattice that extended in every direction, a cage closing around him. The lines twisted and wove through the darkness, overlapping, spiraling into patterns that shifted and breathed. A trap. His chest tightened. He was caught in a web of magic, crushing down on him. But where was... Then he heard it. A rustle. Faint. Distant at first. Then closer. Again, it crept up right behind him. Cold breath landed against his neck as something wet and wraith-like seemed to lean over his shoulder. A growl, low, guttural. It vibrated into the cavity of his chest. "Run! Run!" His instincts screamed it, but his muscles locked in place, pinned against an invisible force. It's too late. The air thickened, pressing in. Something pulled at his joints, his limbs, working into his muscles like strings. His body wasn't his to control anymore, not his choice. His breath came in short bursts, frost searing at his throat. The creature started to turn him. "No, don't make me see it," he thought, over and over. Gradually, a figure stood just above the threshold of shadow and light. At first glance, it might have seemed human. Female, lean, draped in tattered black. But then she moved. A twitch, a jerk. Her form contorting unnaturally, as though her joints had been reversed and her limbs operated on a delay. The woman's head lolled sideways, then snapped upright. The motion was sharp enough to make Kai's stomach churn. Her face, or what might have been her face, was obscured by a veil of her own wet, long hair. 2 cavernous pits yawned where her eyes should have been, their depths swirling with an eerie void. Then, from within, pale orbs emerged, rolling aimlessly as though searching, until they snapped sharply into focus, locking onto him with an intensity that felt like a physical blow. There was no mistaking it. Before him stood Olyndra. Kai had never seen the witch, but he knew this thing was her. The stories were burned into his mind, whispered around hearths since childhood, telling of her twisted presence and how her aura alone could paralyze the bravest souls. She was like a living nightmare that haunted those trapped under the Nightshawl. Except she was a story no longer. She was real, and here. She stepped closer. The air around her rippled, bending like heat over flame. He couldn't move nor look away. The force holding him demanded he succumb to her. Her voice rasped through the air.
The relic you bear is an encroachment upon our realm.
Kai said nothing. Words would only feed her will and twist back onto him like a snare. The stories had warned him to stay quiet. Her skeletal hand extended toward his belt, and spindly fingers stretched toward the leather sheath. They stopped a small distance away from the Kris'thal, trembling faintly, testing the air around it.
A ward against thievery,
she mused.
You dust dabblers possess far greater command of the old tongue than I presumed.
Again, Kai said nothing. One word and she'd dispel his protection. His pulse hammered as his mind raced for a way out.
So be it,
Olyndra said.
If it cannot be claimed from your grasp, it shall be wrested from your corpse.
Her jaw cracked open, widening impossibly. She reached in, down to her forearm, and withdrew a jagged obsidian blade from her mouth, pulsing with sickly light that traced its edge as she raised it toward his chest. Panic seized him. The world narrowed down to the point of her blade. Shadows folded inward, suffocating the space between them. But before she could thrust forward to end his life, the darkness erupted into blinding light. It tore through the Nightshawl, pure and overwhelming. Olyndra recoiled. Her form twisted as she shrieked, retreating back deep into the shadows. Kai staggered, throwing an arm over his eyes. The brilliance seared into his vision. It was too bright. When it finally dimmed, he lowered his hand, blinking hard against the afterimages burned into his sight. A figure stood before him. You're lucky I was nearby. It was a woman's voice that was calm, measured, and not entirely unkind. Kai straightened. Who are you? Eira, she said, stepping closer. And you should leave. Voidkin you can handle, a witch you can't, and she'll be back. This was Eira? Eira, the name Korik had mentioned, the one who had given him the Kris'thal. His vision cleared. Lavender eyes met his, glowing faintly in the dark. Her sharp features were framed by dark, loose curls. A deep indigo cloak, embroidered with runic patterns in shimmering gold thread, hung loosely over her shoulders. Beneath it she wore light armor, leather pauldrons and bracers etched with protective glyphs, complemented by a fitted tunic of layered fabric that looked both practical and arcane. Around her waist was a thick, well-worn belt holding various pouches, one which glimmered faintly with traces of prosilium dust. Her boots, enchanted similarly, bore faint marks along the shaft up to her knees, likely to soften her footfalls and conceal her presence. Functional. Practical. It was the gear of a Rune Runner. Her hand gripped a short sword. Its blade was etched with wards and boons that smoldered with subtle light, shifting like oil across a surface of water. The enchantments looked intricate and old. Woven thoroughly throughout the steel, not just layered over the top of it. Nice blade, Kai said. Thanks. It was my first claim. Where from? He asked. Oh, high in the Myr'ides. Took it from the remains of a warrior of the Myr'ides. She paused. I spent a lot of time up in the mountains. Lots of old battlegrounds to explore, you understand. That tracked. She smelled faintly of ash and sulfur, sense of the fault fire. Still, he didn't quite trust her. What do you know about this Kris'thal? Why did you give it to Korik, and why haven't I seen you around? She sighed. This isn't the time for explanations. Olyndra will return, and she won't come alone. Kai's clenched hand tightened on the crystal dagger, raising it as if presenting it. He wanted answers now. This relic awakened for me, not Korik. Why? She sheathed her sword. The runes along its blade settled. I thought it would awaken for him. He's seasoned and exceptionally strong, but it stayed dead. She shrugged. That told me something important. What's that? That it isn't his to bear. Kai frowned. Then whose? She rolled her eyes and scoffed. Yours, obviously. Why me? I just said. It chooses, not me. Eira's tone sharpened with frustration. I was desperate. I took a risk. Looked like it worked. You could have just given it to me directly. Her eyes narrowed. It chooses. I don't even know you. Then how did you— I don't know how. What I know is that this is only the beginning. The Kris'thal needs to be awakened, fully. Its power will grow, and as it does, it'll draw attention. She paused. Straight to you. He hadn't thought of that. Kai suddenly felt a rush of dread wash over him. How do I stop the witches from hunting me? He asked. For now, we hide it from their far sense. Far sense? Yeah, their ability to extend themselves beyond their physical senses. She took one step back. Are you sure you're a runner? Hey, come on now. I'm still learning a thing or two. So I see. Hold still. Eira's fingers danced in the air as she intoned. Naifisvus ja tornasaan. Magic shimmered in the air. Bright lines twisted into spiraling patterns before sinking into his cloak. The Kris'thal's glow dulled instantly, and its droning hum lowered to barely a whisper. Kai looked it over with fascination before sheathing it. I'm Kai, by the way, he said, extending his hand. But she didn't take it. She just sort of looked at him, then at his outstretched palm, and finally her eyes roamed back to his face. Kai lowered his hand slowly. Heat crept up his neck. Right. Apparently not a custom she knew. The corner of her mouth twitched. Hello, Kai. So, what was that incantation you just weaved? It's an obfuscation. Dampens the resonance so it can't be detected. At least not within your cloak, so don't remove it. Then her expression turned grim. It's unfortunately temporary. The dagger will eventually resist the suppression. The stronger it grows, the harder it'll be to hide. Kai looked down at the now silent dagger. The quiet was almost worse than the hum. How long will it hold, would you say? She looked up, then shrugged. 2 turns? Maybe 3 if we're lucky. Depends on its will. The Kris'thal has a will? She nodded enthusiastically. It's not just a dagger, Kai. The fractal lattice inside, the patterns you see. They're computational matrices. It was made to hold information, make decisions, and adapt to its wielder. It's a weapon that thinks, constantly calculating and learning. She paused, and Kai noticed her watching his face for a reaction. Think of it like layers of crystal that store and enhance magic, but also has a mind. Kai blinked. his head spun trying to follow, not quite understanding all of the words that Eira was speaking. Eira sighed. The blade is alive, in a sense. Not like you or me, but it has a goal built into it. Now that it's awakening, it'll push you toward that goal. You're carrying something that wants things, Kai, and it'll use you to get them. So I'm what? A tool for a tool? No, more like a partner. It chose you for a reason, but yes, it has its own agenda. One I'm not entirely sure of. Kai started walking. What am I supposed to do with it? Eira followed. Well, where were you headed? He glanced at her. Why are you following me? Would you leave something this powerful with a stranger without watching what they do with it? No, he replied. Well, there you have it. How can I trust you won't kill me in my sleep and take it? That's not the runner code, she said. It's your claim, not mine. And we don't kill our own. Are you really a Rune Runner? He asked. Here's my mark. She raised her palm in presentation. The Rune Runner's brand glimmered faintly, lines pulsing with magic. Kai recognized the symbol for the fault fire nestled within it. He then showed his own palm in response. The same mark was seared into his skin in a similar fashion as hers, though it bore the symbol of the Nightshawl instead. So, where are you headed? She asked. I'm taking it to the old ruins, south of here. Kai watched Eira's brow arch high. The ruins. The ruins of the Kris'thal coast? The cities of the Myr? Why there? I had a feeling, Kai replied as his hand settled against the hilt of the Kris'thal within his cloak. And you know what to do when you get there? Not really. Then I'm coming along. No, he replied. Absolutely not. He didn't need someone hovering over him, watching every move he made. Especially not someone who already proved she had her own agenda with it. She rolled her eyes. You'll die without me. You nearly did just now. You need a good sword arm. You need a pacer. What? I could have handled that witch. She had a knife at your heart. I still had options. Like what? That force rune of yours? I saw you use it so clumsily. Missed completely. Eira crossed her arms. What would have been your plan after that? Kai grumbled. I would have figured something out. Oh, you were completely paralyzed. That's what Olyndra does. She gets in your head. She locks you down and carves you open while you watch. She leaned in. You didn't even know she was there until she wanted you to know. Kai pulled back instinctively. I sensed the trap. Yeah, after you were already in it. Her tone sharpened. And you still underestimate what you're carrying. The witches will do anything to get that blade back. Anything. You think Olyndra was bad? She's just one of them. The others are worse. Kai considered this, then huffed. Fine. But if you try anything, I would have already done it, she said, cutting him off. Now, let's go. We've already spent too much time standing around in the same spot. They walked in silence for a long while before Eira spoke again. If we're going to the ruins, why are we taking a detour? What's in Evergloom? Supplies and rations, Kai replied. Rest, too. Korik says a good hearty meal and a proper sleep through the veil keeps your feet swift in the churn that follows. Ah, that's smart. Strategic. Good plan. Strategic? Kai glanced at her. It's eating and sleeping. Right. I just mean, she stopped, seeming to reconsider. I usually just keep moving, grab what I need and go. I don't spend much time in towns. Ever? Kai asked. Not if I can help it. I don't sleep much either. She rubbed her nose. But a hot meal does sound good. Been living on hardtack for a day and a half. Kai studied her. You've never had a pacer, have you? No. She said it simply, like it was obvious. I work alone. That explains a lot, he said. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. He kept walking. Just, you're a little... direct, Eira said. I was going to say intense. She seemed to consider that. Fair enough. Who was she? A runner, sure, but not like him. Not like the others he had trained with either. There was something strange about her, and how long had she been watching him before she stepped in? You're staring, Eira said flatly. Kai looked ahead quickly. Am I? You want to ask me something, so ask it. There were a dozen questions swirling chaotically in his head, but only one mattered right now to him. Why did you really give the Kris'thal to Korik? When she answered, he found that her voice was careful. Sometimes you realize you're on the wrong path, and the only way to fix it is to let someone else finish the journey. She looked like she had more to say, but that was the end of it. Instead, she walked ahead, leaving Kai with those words, all the way to Evergloom.